Good morning, Suidlanders. How are you? We trust that you are well. On the social media groups of Suidlanders leadership, a series of brief discussions has been held in reaction. This is informal discussions, geselsgroepe, in reaction to a Facebook post by one At Venter, in which he says the following. He's talking about the plant, the weed, langhans. Hy het 'n diep penwortel en gebruik al die dieper water van die grond. Jou grasse het nie 'n penwortelstelsel nie, maar 'n vlak ankerwortelstelsel. Langhanse bevark grasse in die veld omrede hy die gras se water alles opsuip voor die gras die water kan benut. En die goed is vrek baie hierdie jaar. Ek dink dis die jaar van die langhanse. Oom Siener het gesê daardie jaar van die langhanse gaan julle moeilikheid begin. I don't know enough about this subject to give it credence or to dismiss it. It may be absolutely the case that the prophecy is being realized. Or it may be a case of exaggeration, as so many people have exaggerated various things in recent years. For instance, every time there's anything said about polar ice caps melting, somebody will say, just remember. Oom Sina says it begins when the snows or the ice begins to melt. I've heard that at least 888,888 times in the past 8 years, at the very least, if not more. And they've been wrong. It's so many times to be wrong, huh? 888,888. So who knows? Who knows? However, it is thought-provoking. And I thought I would share that small, simple little thing with you. And I'll share something else with you which you may find interesting. You can look this up very easily. If you want to look it up, use the search term Armstrong Economics Socrates. Socrates, the famous Greek philosopher. Socrates was the master of his pupil Plato, and Plato was the master of his pupil Aristotle. So Aristotelian logic and thinking came from Plato, and Plato's Platonic worldview and all of the ideas that he developed were largely attributable to the foundations laid in his mind by Socrates. Now let me continue. The Socrates, so you've got a search term, right? And you know where the word comes from. Okay. Martin Armstrong of Armstrong Economics possesses a computer that he programmed over many years to possess a scenario planning skill, apparently like no other in the world. Now, how it works is you get such software. He calls the computer Socrates. And I suppose it's just standard hardware configured in a certain powerful way. Really, I suppose it's down to the software and the programming of it and the data entered into those programs. But this is not a unique concept. You can buy, I looked into this, military intelligence scenario planning computers, that's to say hardware and software, for in fact, you make a down payment $250,000 once off, and then you pay $250,000 a year. And if you fail to pay the $250,000, they disconnect you. I suppose they have some way of doing that. And the software will no longer function, or they will, deactivate the software. Or let's put it another way, they will not reactivate the software, and it automatically deactivates after a year, if not reactivated by the developers upon payment. Okay. So this idea of being able to look to see what might happen in the future is not completely unique. What you do in the military intelligence sense, and I'll explain it in layman's terms. I'm going to oversimplify it for those of you who know it better. You're going to think I'm talking like a child, and I am deliberately, so that those people who don't know about it can, we always begin learning from the bottom with the simplest ideas. We are all children every time we learn something new. We are no cleverer than an 8-year-old. We may have more knowledge, but we're not brighter about the thing. Our understanding has to be cultivated from nil. What you do is you put in all the data that you can, huge amounts of data. And let's say you want to predict whether there will be violence in Eshowe next week. You should already have a platform, a foundation of knowledge about Eshowe, how many people live there, how many houses, is there running water, how many have it, how many people are jobless, how many unemployed, what is the median income, the average income, what is the highest income, the lowest income, are there social grants, who has social grants, who doesn't, are the municipal services working, have there been recent incidents, whatever. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of information. And then you plug in new information pertaining to the date. And the computer says, oh, yes. It's thinking to itself, yes, yes, yes. Oh, February. Oh, hottest part of the year in a hot part of South Africa. People are unsettled already. Perhaps it says the opposite. Perhaps it says people will be more unsettled in wintertime in Eshowe. But it takes all of this into account. And then it's able to give you some idea of relative stability or instability of a certain place at a certain time. Again, I've explained this in the most childlike terms. Now, Martin Armstrong has a computer that performs such a function, and it does it pertaining to economics, finance, you name it, everything you can imagine. And it has, in the past, excuse me, I beg your pardon, everybody. I habitually fail to turn off my phone or put it on flight mode. And funnily enough, I don't when I fly. I always remember to do that without the air hostess, air stewardess, whatever they're called, having to tell me. And his computer, Socrates, reckons that World War III will begin in early 2024 or early 2025. Now, I'm not saying that Socrates will be right, but as I was saying before the phone rang, or when the phone rang, it has an unbelievable track record of being correct. It's the most astonishing thing. It's quite remarkable, and it has made Martin Armstrong a lot of money because he's able to predict the future with that computer, and many people will pay king's ransoms to be able to predict the future and then bet on it, as it were, or adjust their operations, tactics, and strategies accordingly. Now, if World War III began in, say, February 2024, would that be when the snows are melting? No, on the contrary, it would be when the snows are falling. Because anybody who knows anything about winter in the Northern Hemisphere knows, for instance, this is just one of the, you possibly have better examples than this one of mine. It's a very unusual thing for England to have a white Christmas, for the snows to have covered merry old England by the 25th of December. Winter kicks in from, let's say, October in Great Britain. November, December, it's cold, but the snow hasn't yet come. When those places, we're not talking about Finland now that has snow, the snow probably starts falling in August, or northern Siberia. The snow is year-round, but for 3 weeks. But generally speaking, if you talk about snows being there and snows not being there in that part of the world, those places in the world that get snow, we might generalize and say that the harshest part of winter is not December, it's February, just as our snows, the harshest part of our summer is in February. So, I'm not saying that this all makes sense. I'm not saying, ooh, the two tied together, long answer, when the snows melt, just like Sina said, and Martin Armstrong's computer's predictions of early 2024. No, I'm saying the very opposite. However, it's worth sharing with you. You might find it interesting. And you might have contributions of your own. You might finish watching this video and send me a message, or send your provincial leader a message, or post a comment down below in the YouTube comment section. Or you might turn to your wife and have something to say, or you might phone your friend who has an interest in common with you in Sina van Rensburg, or you may go to a Suidlanders meeting and say, hey, I just want to say something that I think is very, very interesting. Because, as you know, Mr. Miller, there's an excellent video from a couple of years ago that you can look up. Let me just see if I can find the title without omission. It is from the 24th of August 2020 on YouTube. Planning SL according to SIA. That's in English because this channel was set up in Afrikaans. And then I put it on to translate because I struggled with one or two things. The Afrikaans, some woordeskat. And the translation back into English is appalling. But I think you can safely say that the Afrikaans version is Beplan SL volgens Siener. Beplan SL volgens Siener. Dit is die titel van die video, in which Mr. Miller describes very nicely the whys and the wherefores, the lefts and the rights, the backwards and the forwards. He covers the subject well. And we do plan according to Sina van Rensburg. Does that mean that every single thing we do is, well, Mr. Miller explains it, no. Don't wake up in the morning thinking, well, because you don't always know. But, yes, we do. Generally speaking, much of our thinking and planning is based upon the forewarnings that he gave us. Naturally it is. And therefore people at a Suidlanders meeting might be fascinated to hear what you have to say on the basis of your knowledge added to what I've had to say. And I end just with the insistence. I'm not saying that what I've said in this video, these three things basically. make sense or that they fit together well. One day we will see. But I just thought that you might be interested in that. Die jaar van die langhanse, Martin Armstrong, a fantastic predictor of developments, saying that World War III is coming, that what's happening in Ukraine will turn into World War III, or shall, and that it'll happen in early 2024, or, I didn't say this earlier, I should have, early 2025. Anyway, go and have a look for yourself. It's fascinating stuff. Thank you very much for watching this video. God bless you, and may He keep you and yours through the difficult times that we are entering now, of which there can be no question. Okie dokes, everybody. Cheerio. Bye-bye.